Michael, I'm going to describe nostalgia, the rules of nostalgia, and you stop me the moment that I say something that doesn't jive with you.
Okay.
Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Nostalgia is something a person can feel.
Mm-hmm.
Are we good so far?
Yeah.
It's also a quality we can ascribe to a piece of media.
Yes.
Okay,
I feel
we're
like
good.
that'll be our keyword going forward, but we'll get to that in a sec, I'm assuming.
Okay, so nostalgia is like a bittersweet, we'll say, emotion.
Maybe. Like,
I think that's what it originally was.
yeah, originally, the original definition, I Wikipedia'd this before we started talking. Originally, yes, it was a bittersweet word ascribed to Swiss military officers who were in the field of battle or something, who would feel a very strong sense of longing for their home.
That's
The more
kinda
you know.
sweet.
Yeah.
Oof. I can turn into a tiger or panther now also. Is a
What
thing
did
that
that
happened?
happen? What?
Don't worry about it. It's a word that has lost all meaning now. We're gonna roll past that. You agree with me?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I think. Well, I mean, to
Yeah.
put it. Okay, put it this way. A lot of. I think it's probably more powerful now than ever. Or more important of a word now than ever, and has a different. Maybe it has a different meaning now, but it has a meaning.
Meaning? Okay, what is the meaning?
It's an intense sense of longing for a previous, either a previous personal experience or a previous moment in time. And I think this is where we're going to diverge in our meanings here, because you seem.
Yeah, is this just high school kids saying I was born in the wrong generation and wearing Led Zeppelin t-shirts?
No.
Are you sure? Because that's what you're describing.
This sounds. Well, I mean, that was
Was that you, Michael?
me as a kid. Yeah. Yeah.
Is that nostalgia though?
No, it's not nostalgia. I think nostalgia is, and this is something that I guess maybe is a more relatively recent definition of it.
Oh, come on.
Are they dolphins or snakes?
True.
Is nostalgia a dolphin or a snake?
I must kill them regardless, Michael.
So, the idea of nostalgia can,
Ooh, that didn't work.
like, not necessarily something that's a personal memory, but could be something maybe a little more collective, something that you glean through, like, media consumption and stuff like that. So, say I'm a kid.
You're a kid.
Who grew up watching all the Back to the Future movies, watching like your quintessential 80s movies, so like Firestarter, or I haven't actually seen Firestarter.
That is a weird go-to, but I like it.
Okay,
You know,
but like
Firestarter.
you know, like Pretty in Pink, St. Almost Fired.
Okay, now we're
Nothing has been all right since 1985. No, but like you grow up with this kind of media consumption where there's this image of a time that's kind of given to you and is kind of told to you through media you've taken in, things maybe people have told you, like your parents and stuff who did live through that time, and you develop this image of a past moment that is like, things were pretty bitchin' back then. Things were pretty bitchin' back then. Things were pretty bitchin' back. Coke off of DeLorean hoods and Cold War terror. But like,
Ooh. Here's where I'm going to disagree with you.
Okay. Because this is a definition that people have given it. So.
Are you describing nostalgia for that decade or nostalgia for media you consumed as a child?
I'm saying for that decade because if there's this prevalent theme of the decade where like, oh, I'm consuming stuff from the 80s and I start thinking the 80s are cool.
As a
and then
child?
there's this other... Maybe.
Or now?
Yes.
I don't know.
Because I think the more people... I think the more that people start consuming media either in reference to this or are like a part of maybe the cultural canon of that time period. And I'm picking on the 80s, but I thought more with 60s stuff when I was in high school because I had friends that were, yes, they were like the Layrung generation people, but they were also very much like building a lifestyle around that.
It's creepy.
And they were talking about how, like, if they had idealized versions of media, is always something in reference to that. So it'd be like someone who likes 60s music and is like, guys, have you heard this new Tame Impala single? And obsess over that. And I kind of was in a similar boat, maybe, in that I liked having music that was built very much off of a previous sound or a previous reference point in the past. And I mean, we've talked about that in the past and stuff like that, with like how much I love bands like Gaslight Anthem and stuff who build their general aesthetic off of like 50s popular media and stuff.
Okay, but if you read Pride and Prejudice, are you nostalgic for the whatever decade that came out in?
No, not necessarily.
What's the difference?
You can like something and not be beholden to
cool.
like.
Oh,
yeah, it is.
I screwed up.
I mean, not be like beholden to that time period, but I mean, I think there's a lot of strength in that like memory where you have like, oh man, 80s kitsch is cool, and then you have like positive memories of that where you have like a positive reaction to anything referencing that kitsch.
Stranger Things, is that a nostalgic show?
I think not necessarily, but I think it kind of mines that.
Okay.
I don't think it has to, like, in and of itself maybe isn't nostalgia, but someone who's like, because I think it's more of an homage than anything until this last season, but I don't know, I think it mines a lot of that 80s nostalgia. I think, and I do use that word because I think people are like,
who's
oh hey,
nostalgia,
though? People who watched it, who lived the 1980s, and are like, oh yeah, I remember when, I guess, Reagan was running for president and kids played D&D in their garage. But like also people who are like, oh, as a kid I watched E.T., I listened to Aha's Take on Me.
No, but Michael, that's nostalgia for their childhood. That's not nostalgia for the 80s.
But it's built around that 80s image. You associate these feelings with that specific time period. You associate
Childhood.
the positive with that. Not necessarily childhood. Keep that going through high school. Say I like 80s rock music a lot, and I think St. Elmo's Fire is a cool image, and I want to keep going with that. And even though I don't think anyone's ever going to say that again, but
this is so, it's like focused on years in a weird way though. Like you could like, you know, the Joshua Tree and not
be like obsessed with like, bruh, 1987 was the best year for
yeah,
music ever. No,
and
I agree.
To that album, not know what year it's from, and not be caught up in this like weird 80s thing.
But there are people who will listen to that maybe, or not. I wouldn't even say Joshua Tree. I think Joshua Tree kind of is too unique.
It transcends.
It transcends.
It's the album. Oh, screw
well,
these guys.
I think it isn't as rooted in like that aesthetic from the 80s as other things. But I think like no, I know. I'm trying to figure out what I want to say because I think I'm not getting across necessarily what I'm trying to say with it. But like,
also I'm sick, so my mind is not firing.
No, it's okay. I'm not good at talking. But like,
I get what you're saying.
You end up associating a positive image with this general aesthetic rooted in a time period,
but
or
is
general
that nostalgia?
idea. Yes.
Why?
The association of this positive image with a specific point in time is the definition of nostalgia. It could be personal nostalgia, but there is a more collective nostalgia that can be pointed to.
It's a false nostalgia, though. It's
well,
people
is it
remembering
false
a decade through media that might not even have come out in that decade, but which references other media which did come out in that decade.
Yes, but that's what it is.
That's a nightmare.
That's what it is, though. That is the exact definition of this idea, and that's going to be your... You can hate it all you want, but that's literally what it is.
But
you don't have to have lived through the 80s to sit there and think, man, the 80s were a cool time. I wish we were back then. And yeah, that's going to...
How can you know?
You won't. And most of the time, even the people who have experienced it are going to be remembering it differently. They're going to remember the things they like. They'll remember all the positive stuff and forget all of the crappy.
Remember sock hops.